So, I wanted to tell you that, and I wanted to talk to you briefly. Are there any questions about that? Wonderful topic. I wanted to talk to you briefly about something that's happening politically, because I got briefly discouraged. I don't let myself be discouraged, but sometimes I get discouraged before I can rebuke it. And I was very disappointed to find out that there is now prosecutorial evidence against Comey, and that our Attorney General has refused to prosecute. He could put him away. The evidence is there. He could put him away. And he said he wasn't going to do it. So a lot of people are very upset about that, and I was upset about that because it's not just Comey. What does this mean? Okay, are there going to be no prosecutions? And then one commentator, Rick Wiles, it's his opinion, and man has the spirit of God, but you never know. He said this a while ago, that a deal was made. That a deal was made with the Bush crime family. Do you know that the country is run by crime families? The country is run by crime families. The whole world is run by crime families. And the obvious elements of the deal was that right after George H.W. Bush died, Mueller started to wind down his investigation. So the deal seems to have been that Mueller gave up on Trump, and this is Rick Wiles' opinion. I don't know that I agree with it. And that Comey's not going to jail, and Hillary's not going to jail, and Obama's not going to jail. And this was Rick Wiles' opinion. So that's discouraging, you know. What about, we were all excited that the Attorney General seems to really be getting ready to prosecute Durham, I forget his exact title, but Attorney Durham, he was the one attorney that was appointed by Jeff Sessions. He has recommended a prosecution, and Bill Barr said, no, I'm not going to do it. So, is he going to prosecute anybody? Is the whole thing just a phony? Everybody's really hoping. A few months ago, you know, I have all these sources that I read on the internet. Some of them I believe more than others, but the bottom line is I'll believe it when I see it. You know. So there's one guy, Zubrick. He's not one of my most trusted sources. He's very questionable, but he seems to have a lot of insider information. He said that the military tribunal started maybe as much as 6 months ago. 3 to 6 months ago. I lose track of time. And then I heard it from one other, I think he was the only one that said it. And there was really no signs of it, so I just sort of forgot about it. Now, Benjamin Fulford is saying it. Now, Benjamin Fulford has my ear. He's not a Christian. I don't know what his religion is. He's a Canadian journalist who was a full-time resident of Japan. He speaks Japanese fluently, writes in Japanese, so I guess he's an expatriate. And the guy has really been right on a lot of times, and he says the military tribunals are going on, and the reason the information is being released now, not to a lot of people, you know, is that as crazy as this sounded, when I first heard it, it really sounded crazy, that the House of Representatives, now this is, I'm sure, can be corroborated, the House of Representatives has, I don't always have the right words, put forth a bill, I think that's all that they can do, put forth a bill, to approve the public viewing of the military tribunals on the internet, not even on CBS or MSNBC. They're going to be broadcast over the internet. And that's what the House of Representatives approved. So I'm saying, why would Adam Schiff, okay, if I wasn't a lady, I'd call him a name, okay? Why would Adam Schiff, who headed up the whole thing, why would he want to do something like that? Why would he want to help us? Why would he want the whole country to see this wonderful sight of criminals, enemies of this country being prosecuted? And I really didn't know. I couldn't think of any idea till I heard another one of my sources, a Christian source. And he said he thinks he's doing it because he's believing that a lot of people will get upset and there will be riots. He wants the riots. I don't know if it's true, but at least it makes sense. Sometimes I don't even have an idea of what the answer is, but the thing makes sense, you know. For example, those of you that are into the 9/11 catastrophe, to whatever degree you're into it, I preached about it. You know, I don't believe there were any planes. I believe it was a holograph. But aside from that, those of you that have read up on it, you might know that there was an attack on the Pentagon at the same time. And that the narrative is that a plane hit the Pentagon. But if you look at a picture of the Pentagon, there's a big hole that a plane could not possibly have fitted in, with no sign of debris whatsoever. So it looks like a missile hit the Pentagon. Really. I have no idea what that means, okay? And now all these years later, I find out that there's a war going on, an internal war within the military, between the Army and the Navy. And that the Navy is deep state, globalists, and the Army is nationalist with Trump. And Trump has just fired some big vice admiral, and some other vice admirals was suicided last year for trying to start World War III. And now I understand that it was the Navy, that Pentagon, where that hole is, made by what looks like a missile, it was naval intelligence. That missile went right for naval intelligence. Well, the Army sent a missile to naval intelligence because they were going to do more than the Twin Towers and Building 7. They sent a missile to take out naval intelligence. Is it true? I don't know, but it's the best suggestion I've heard. So you just go with it, and you serve God and you preach the truth. But we can't be sleeping as to what's going on in the world. So the military tribunals are going on, and they're actually, well, I don't know if they did it, they bought it already, but the price of the cameras have been authorized. They're going to be shown on the internet. They're taking place both at Guantanamo Bay, and there are 2 other locations, the names of which I don't recall. One is an island with a name that I'm not familiar with. No. So, the military tribunals are going on. Now I hear there are 110,000 sealed indictments that have begun to be unsealed, but no names that, well, we don't really know that there are no names that we know about, because some people say that both George H.W. Bush and John McCain were executed. We don't want to believe that, don't believe it. It was a deal. They made a deal that could keep their reputation. And they just killed him without a trial. I guess it had to be some military thing that they did. So why isn't Bill Barr prosecuting Comey? What does it mean? It doesn't mean that Bill Barr is corrupt. So anyway, I was a little blue about that, about hearing that he wasn't going to prosecute Comey. And the significance of it is that I have to question Bill Barr's integrity now, and what's really going on in the country. As the crime families war in another spiritual realm, the crime families of the world are warring with each other, and we're just pieces on a chessboard. The Lord spoke to me this morning, and especially when I've been in a deep study, I usually hear correctly. It's rare that it turns out that I heard incorrectly, but especially after I've been in a deep study, it's usually correct. And the thought came into my mind: don't be upset with Bill Barr. And don't even be upset if it turns out that it's true, that a deal was struck, that Mueller put down his his hatchet against Trump, and the deal was that George H.W. Bush would keep his reputation and have this big state funeral and wouldn't embarrass his family and blah, blah, blah. Even if that's true, the thought came into my mind, don't get upset over that. Because the reality is, well, first of all, Trump is not alone. I hope you all know that Trump is not alone. I hope you all know that he was solicited by a group of patriots in the military. He's not in this alone. And the military, we now know, is divided. Okay, the Army against the Navy, and I'm not talking about a football game. Okay. So I didn't really expect to go this far with the politics, but here I am. You might have heard recently in the news that, and I may have the number wrong, either 16 or 19 SEALs were arrested. And they were arrested in an unusual way. The whole population of the base shaped up in the morning. And they came in and arrested them right in front of all of their fellow, I don't know if SEALs and Marines or not, from the other people that were there on the base. And I knew that sounded suspicious. They were charged with human trafficking, but not what we would think. Human trafficking, that was the charge, but what they were doing was that they were driving across the border, picking up passengers, illegals, and getting them into the country illegally and taking bribes. But it didn't sound right to me. And then I went to another source, which says that there were 2 SEAL teams that were preparing to assassinate Trump. 12 of them in all. They were being put in position to assassinate Trump. And that the order came down from naval intelligence. So Trump doesn't have the whole military. He's fixing it, and I had heard a couple of months ago that right now the head of the is it the chief of staff, the head of the Pentagon? I think they're called the chief of staff. I'm not sure. The head military, whatever they're called. The top guy is a naval officer right now. So he is being relieved. And as of October 1st, an Army general will be in that position. His name is General Miley. And his official position is to the entire United States military. You serve and are faithful and swear an allegiance to the Constitution. There's no political parties amongst the enlisted men or the officers. And that will be his policy. So they're trying to bring the Navy back in again. So all of you that have been wondering, why didn't Trump declare martial law? Why didn't he do this? Why didn't he do that? Well, now you see a reason why. So even if he did strike a deal, his benefit was that Mueller stopped the witch hunt, and he had to give up prosecuting a couple of big-name people. Even if he did strike a deal, it appears that he had no choice. That negotiation was necessary. That the other side is so powerful that there had to be negotiation. That he was not strong enough to just go in with the military and just lock them all up. And maybe he just didn't want to do that. I believe that there are patriots operating in the country. They don't want to do that. That's an absolutely last resort. They want the Constitution to hold. And they want these people to go on trial and to be prosecuted. And if they're guilty, to be executed. I hope you all know Bill Barr has reinstated the death penalty. So, what gets me upset is when I don't understand things, and when things don't make any sense. So here's Bill Barr doing all of this stuff, including reinstating the death penalty, and now he won't prosecute Comey. So what's going on here? Well, what's going on here is that it's not a slam dunk deal. There's treachery everywhere. There are traitors everywhere. So Trump struck a deal. And again, he's not alone. He's with a military coalition. that were patriots. So if that was the deal, that Comey can't be arrested, okay, if that, I have to trust, that the deal was for the benefit of the country. And maybe he did that rather than throw the whole country into crisis by calling out the military, possibly having shooting in the streets between the Navy and the Army. There's already been incidences of actual shooting in the streets between the CIA and the FBI. That's how divided the country is. So he can't just go and do whatever he wants. And maybe he struck a deal. Maybe a guilty party will get off because he struck a deal. That's what the Lord told me this morning. And it has really set me free. Because the truth sets me free. So, don't be upset if you've heard the news that Bill Barr will not prosecute Comey. And also, they may find him guilty of something else too that he may be prosecuted for. Who knows? But I'm just, every day more and more, I'm thinking that I really have to stop trying to figure it out and really trust God that He is in this group of patriots, and that it's going to work out. So as my mind comes to that, I'll share something else with you that the Lord told me with regard to revival. A lot of Christians were waiting for revival, and in our mind, revival is an outpouring of the Spirit that will make our emotions feel good and possibly heal our body. That's what we're waiting for. And the Lord told me the other day, the revival is in full swing, but it's a completely different revival. To God, revival means the outpouring of His Spirit, an outpouring of power. See? And it's come a completely different revival than Pentecost, which made your feet dance and your emotions feel good and heal your body. This is an outpouring of power that's being revealed through Donald Trump and the military coalition that supports him. That put him up there. They put him up there, and they could probably take him. I'm sure they could take him down. He's not alone. So the revival is on. And what the revival is doing is that it's healing this nation, which is the political base that Jesus Christ operates out of, whereby He reaches out to the whole world. And the kind of revival that those of us that want our emotions healed, and what we're really looking for is personal relief. Don't forget, the Lord is looking at this from a global position. It's the whole world. We just want personal relief, The Lord's looking at the whole big picture, which is all of humanity, His creation. So He's not going to be doing anything on that personal. He'll meet our needs personally, one-on-one, but talking about the kind of outpouring that we saw in Pentecost, nothing like that is going to happen until the government of this country comes back into right order and the moral structure is restored. And personally, I think it's going to be easier to bring the government into right order than to restore the moral structure. I don't know how He's going to do it with these people. I don't know how He's going to put the genie back in the box. I really don't know. There's only one way that I know of to put the genie back in the box, and that's a terrible option. Maybe just a dictator raises up and locks everybody up, puts everybody in jail. They make a law, no fornication. We come onto Islam. I saw an interview of some Iranian families, no fornication. Government order, fornication is not allowed. Well, that'll do it quickly. Put all the ladies in burqas. Hopefully that's not an option. So I don't know how He's going to do it. But that's what He said to me. Because that revival of Pentecost was a rejoicing. He said, there's nothing to rejoice about now. The country was almost overtaken, the coup almost succeeded, and it's not over till the fat lady sings. It's not over till it's over. So there's no Pentecostal type outpouring now. Well, the country's in the midst of a coup, and the immorality is bringing down all kinds of curses on the land. And there's no repentance amongst the people or the church at all. Large aspects of the church embracing homosexuality and going away with the world. No. See, no. There is a revival right now, and it's judgment. The revival that's right now is judgment, and that's what's prophesied in the scripture, as it was in the days of Noah. And God is coming with judgment. Why? Because it's needed to save our lives and to save the whole creation. Because if he doesn't come with judgment, he has to destroy us all. And that's what Jesus said. That is exactly what Jesus said. If he doesn't judge this world the way it is now, especially his church, he has to apologize to Saddam. Well, I never understood that because I thought the only sin of Saddam was the homosexuality, but we found out that that's not true. That if homosexuality was present, it was just one aspect of a spiritual wickedness that had risen up amongst the people for studying and receiving in their spirit esoteric doctrine without dealing with their sin nature. And that's what's happening today. The whole country's under a spirit of witchcraft because the church sat down. They never fully stood up. I don't think that the church that arose out of the spirit-filled church that arose out of Pentecost, it ever arose to the level where it was looking towards a global commitment. Whether we are the government of God. God's people are supposed to be involved with society, societal norms, politics. Do you know how many churches I know where they don't vote, that they actually believe that they're not supposed to be involved in politics? Even after President Trump rescinded President Johnson's, in my opinion, disgusting order that put a gag on the church. Now it's okay to speak about political things from the pulpit. Not many have started doing it. So the thinking is, God is going to pour out that spirit and everything will be good. But the Pentecostal revival had no judgment. It was just blessing. How do you bless a people that had that power and only used it for their own selfish purposes? There's nothing wrong with wanting to be healed, or wanting to do better in life. But then you're supposed to get your needs met, and then you're supposed to start looking to how you're supposed to work in the local community and in your country and in the world. And I don't believe that the Pentecostal church ever came to that. It stayed a ministry that just wants to offer you your personal blessing with no recognition of social or global conscience whatsoever. Now, of course, there was the missions that delivered food, and even today there are ministries that give food and dig wells and help people in the third world. But there's no moral conscience. The church went along with the world, sank down into a cesspool of immorality. And I don't see any involvement in government, but I have to say, give credit where credit is due. The church is largely responsible, even today, for helping very poor people with food and digging wells, etc., etc. But never went beyond that. It went beyond that with one ministry that I know of, and that was the Worldwide Church of God, which was Herbert Armstrong. He had a good message. There were heads of state from all over inviting him to visit with them to just talk about his doctrine. And I don't agree with everything that the man taught, but Pentecost bashed him. Anyway, so that was, I think that's my introduction today. The next thing that I want to talk about, I would like to put on a different file. I think that's all. Are there any questions about anything that I've just said?